Welcome back to another KSP video sponsored by Incogni, more on them later, and we start here in Kerbal Space Program 2, which is inferior to KSP1 in almost every way, but credit where credit is due, it graphically is a major step up from the first game. I mean, look at stock KSP2 compared with stock KSP1. Yeah, this game definitely looks its age. But wait a second, who even plays stock KSP1 these days? We have mods that improve things so much that I don't think it's controversial to suggest that modded KSP1 looks light years better than KSP2. And two of the greatest graphical mods ever created for this game, Volumetric Clouds and Deferred Rendering, just got massive upgrades, making the clouds look somehow even better, with better weather effects, surface reflections, and even things like puddles following rainstorms. And so I had to get these upgrades, obviously. And so, I installed both of the mods and had a good old think about what to showcase, insofar as messaging the developer of the mods, BlackRack, for his suggestions about where to go, and he replied saying that the new release of Volumetric Clouds really only upgrades Kerbin and Lathe, with Kerbin being the main attraction, so there isn't much point in visiting Duna, Eve and Jewel, as they haven't really changed a great deal. So obviously, this means that our ascent vehicle should be a single stage to orbit, right, so that we're spending lots of time flying through that beautiful atmosphere, not once, but twice, for when we both take off from the runway and when we eventually head back to it. Kerbin gets a lot of storms and rain near the equator, which is where the Kerbal Space Center is located, and there are a lot of vertically developed clouds there as well. On Lathe, there are volcanoes, and these can easily be spotted from orbit and from the map view too. So Lathe was a strong contender for places I could visit, but I really wanted to check out the surface reflections on Minmus's icy flats that other people have been posting on Reddit. So I thought, let's go to Minmus, and then let's go to Lathe. However, things went a bit wrong in more than one way when making this video, and I actually ran out of time before I could do the Lathe mission, and you know, to be honest, I think it would be nice to give Lathe its own entire video to properly breathe, so I'll probably post that for next week's KSP video. For this video, like I say, we're going to go to Minmus with this cargo SSTO. A few weeks ago, I built a surface base on Minmus with a crew of 6, but they so far have no means of leaving the surface to either visit the orbiting space station or return all the way back to Kerbin. So my idea here was to build such a vessel and then land it next to the base. Now, the eagle-eyed among you may have already spotted the critical blunder I made with the lander's design, but for those that haven't, well, let's just keep it a surprise for now. Now, I should quickly mention that the Minmus reflections are not part of Volumetric Clouds, but are from BlackRack's Deferred Rendering, and they're further enhanced by BlackRack's TUFX profile. TUFX is a visual mod that lets you add kind of like photo filters to the game, and BlackRack's profile works exceptionally well with Deferred Rendering. And look at that, in just a couple of minutes we have a fully assembled nuclear-powered cargo SSTO. I guess building rockets in Kerbal Space Program is pretty easy, right? Since in real life, you can't exactly just go out and buy stuff like nuclear fuel and rocket engines. That market is pretty locked down, especially in countries like the US. But one thing that is scarily easy to buy is personal data, which is why you should be using today's sponsor, Incogni. I certainly am. It's basically essential these days for keeping your data safe online from data brokers, who scrape together frighteningly accurate details about your online activity, public records, and even your online purchases, and they sell them on to who knows who, advertisers, big corporations, and people with malicious intentions. And it feels hopeless trying to manually contact brokers to remove your information from their databases because there are just so many out there. It's an impossible fight to win. Without Incogni, that is. Incogni does all that heavy lifting, reaching out to over 230 brokers, repeatedly, demanding your information is scrubbed, handling all the back and forth on your behalf. And if there's a broker not on Incogni's list, then it's no problem, thanks to the new custom removals tool, so you can tackle even more corners of the internet where your data is out there for the taking. The time is now. Do what I and so many others have done and join Incogni. And if you follow my link in the description and use code MATTLOWNE, you will get 60% off their annual plan, keeping your privacy and personal data where it belongs, with you. And off we go, eventually lifting off from the runway. In a second I'm going to speed the footage up to 2 times regular speed just to get the ball rolling, or the aircraft rolling, but we don't want it rolling, we want it in the air. There we are. pitching up, nose up, there we are. Yes, so off we go with that phenomenally beautiful backdrop with those massive clouds, which we're going to be flying through. Now, normally I keep the camera fairly static for a sense, both when I'm flying rockets and when I'm flying, SSTO space planes, but this time the camera is going to move about a little bit, partly to properly showcase the clouds and give you lots of different viewing angles, and partly so that I could see the clouds too when I was filming this. I was in awe when flying this craft through the atmosphere. I really couldn't resist the temptation to move the camera around a little bit, just to check it out for myself. I should quickly point out that I don't just have volumetric clouds and deferred rendering and TUFX with BlackRack's profile installed. I have quite a few other visual mods installed. If you click in the description, obviously click that link to Incogni, of course, and then you scroll down the description, there's like a full list of visual mods that are in use in this video, and this is the case for all my other videos as well. So if you want to know what visual mods I'm running, then that's how you can find out, basically. Wow, look at that. I can't even describe it. I guess I don't need to because it's a video. You can just look at the video and you can see what it looks like. But yeah, as the craft starts to heat up, we've got those wonderful heating effects thanks to the Firefly mod. That's one of the other visual mods that I'm running here. But yeah, we've pretty much punched through the topmost clouds that we're going to be flying through for the ascent. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that, and hope you enjoy the other flights through clouds we're going to be doing in this video. The SSTO is obviously going to return to Kerbin, and then we're going to need to do another mission to Minmus, because I didn't add parachutes to this. As I said earlier, I made a critical blunder with the design of the vehicle. The vehicle I said, it can get all 6 Kerbals from the surface of Minmus back to Kerbin. I did a heat shield and everything. It was great. But I forgot to add parachutes, which is kind of quite critical for a Kerbin return vehicle. So we're going to have to send a little vehicle to go and add parachutes to the vehicle, basically. So that was the little blunder I mentioned earlier. Either way, I tease it just in case anyone wants to start looking at the screen and can maybe figure it out. But that's the mistake that I made, and that's one of the reasons, but not the main reason, why this video ended up taking a lot longer than anticipated to make, and why I ended up having to scrap the lathe mission and move that to kind of another mission. Although I do think that has worked out quite well, because I do think it would be better to showcase lathe in its own video. And from a cynical YouTuber perspective, I have to consider, when I think of video ideas, the first thing I have to think of is, can this be made into a good title and thumbnail? And a Minmus and lathe mission, it doesn't really there's not really a central focus, really. But I can make a thumbnail specifically about this STO flying through clouds, I guess, I don't know. And then a separate video title thumbnail about lathe, volcanoes, epic, etc. So, I'm running a business here, what can I say? Now, I'm running a business, but I have a big audience, I'm aware of that. And so I feel like I do have to address the elephants, there's a plural here, in the room about the mod that I'm showcasing here. Oh, actually, the SSTO exploded. This kept happening throughout the video. I think the fact that the wings are clipping through those kind of wing-mounted fuel tanks and engine clusters meant that the craft would explode quite a lot. So for this video, you're going to see me making tons and tons of custom quick saves, basically after every single maneuver, because the craft kept exploding. So yeah, that's why I included that little blooper just there to kind of give you context, like, oh my gosh, man, why are you making like 10 million quick saves every 10 seconds? That's the reason, basically. So yes, anyway, onto the topic I was about to start. Well, I guess I already started it, but what I'm saying is there are a couple of elephants in the room with volumetric clouds. See, this mod is a little bit controversial since it has a price tag. This isn't a free mod. You have to be a member of BlackRack's Patreon, which I am a member of. I've been subscribed to it since the first Volumetric Clouds release, and where I live, that's £5 per month. So I didn't get this mod for free. I am a happily paying customer, even though I guess in retrospect I have an audience big enough that I'm sure if I just asked I'd get a free copy, but that's not the point. I'm just saying I'm speaking from an unbiased view as I possibly can be, but I will concede that the money this video makes obviously is going to negate the money spent on the mod. I'm just putting my cards on the table here. The other elephant in the room I need to address is the misinformation that gets spread about this mod, especially on the Kerbal Space Program subreddit. Now, the subject of paid mods in general is a separate conversation that I'm not going to address in this video, but what I do want to address is the perpetuated myth that this mod is a subscription model, and that you have to be subscribed for the mod to work, and this is not the case. So Patreon as a website is generally subscription based. You should definitely check out my page, by the way, if you want to get ad-free videos and craft files of the vehicles I build, but BlackRack's mod isn't subscription based. The way it works is that you pay the subscription for BlackRack's Patreon, so for me £5 once, and that gives you access to the mod files, which you can then download, and then, well, you have the mod files, and you have them forever, and obviously they don't contain any DRM or some sort of self-destruct feature that kicks in every 30 days. You only need to pay for 1 month of BlackRack's Patreon to get access to the files, and then you can just cancel. I stay subscribed to help support the funding of development, but that's just me. You don't have to do that. So I just wanted to clear that up because I am constantly seeing comment chains on Reddit especially, commenting about how this mod is subscription based, and that simply isn't the case. You pay once, paying a subscription after that is just there to fund development, and it is not mandatory. The only caveat being that you will need to rejoin if you want to download new updates or builds. Now, you might disagree with paid mods in general. That's not a conversation I'm having here, but I'm just trying to dispel the myth that this is a subscription model. It's not. You pay once and get it, and that's it. I should also say that all of what I just said only applies to the Volumetric Clouds mod. Deferred Rendering and TUFX are free, even though sometimes when you Google Deferred Rendering, it often takes you to BlackRack's Patreon page. You don't need to be a member of the Patreon to see and click the download button for a Deferred Rendering. And I know this because I tested it just now in incognito mode. Now, speaking of deferred rendering, there was an issue with the install. I don't know if you can see it, but that silver fairing of our lander, it's kind of got that glitching, black effect. So I made a quick save and reloaded the quick save, and that seems to fix it. But it won't be fixed permanently. It's going to come back. It's actually already started coming back, hasn't it? Actually, looking at the body of the spacecraft there. So that was an issue when I filmed this video, and that's why I said earlier that things kind of went wrong. That meant this video took longer to make than planned. That was the other issue. Look at the Minmus flats. That was the issue. I was trying to diagnose what was happening, so I was systematically, uninstalling various mods, rebooting the game, see if it fixed it. It didn't, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. So I eventually just DM'd BlackRack about it, and he's now updated Deferred Rendering so that this glitch doesn't happen. So I want to make it very clear that the glitch you're seeing happen on screen is not a thing now in Deferred Rendering, but it was when I made this video, because I made it kind of within the first days of the mod being updated, essentially. So that's oh my goodness, yeah. So it doesn't look pretty. Once I land on the surface of Minmus, I did another quick save and quick load just here to try and temporarily get rid of it for the landing burn, but as you can see, even then, it didn't fix it. So basically, we're going to just land on Minmus, and then there'll be a cut to many hours in the future where I have, I tried lots of different things like removing mods and re-adding mods and using CCAN to see if there were any conflicts, and none of it worked, and eventually I got the latest version of Deferred set up, and that fixed it. But what the problem was TUFX, which is, I'm running here. BlackRack's TUFX profile uses HDR. And it's the HDR that's causing this kind of glitching. So if you have this is me taking a screenshot, by the way, to send to BlackRack. So if you go on to, here's my profiles here. It's really small because it's like 4K. But basically, you go to BlackRack's settings, disable HDR, and there we go. The black glitching goes away. And then we enable it, and it's fine at first. But then, yeah, that kind of weird glitch comes back. So it's the HDR in TUFX that causes that. But like I say, this should now be fixed. I asked BlackRack if he could explain in kind of layman terms what the fix was, and I'm going to mess it up if I try and put it in my own words, so I'm just going to read his DM verbatim. Yeah, so essentially a math operation in the original scene produced an invalid result. For example, trying to divide by 0 or creating a value that is too large, which is called not a number. The reflection algorithm then picks that value up somewhere in the reflection, and when it attempts to do the blurring for rough materials that have blurry reflections, it averages neighboring valid values with the invalid value, and then all the valid values start to become invalid in turn. So what he did was add a check in the blurring algorithm to discard these invalid numbers before they become a problem. Unfortunately, this problem can be common in graphics, and it's made worse by different hardware/drivers deciding differently what is an invalid operation and what is a valid one, so sometimes they can go undetected. So that's what was happening there. And yes, throughout that entire explanation, I was just moving our lander to be a little bit closer to our surface base. I probably could have done this on the initial landing, but I was so concerned about that graphic glitching, I thought, let's just land near, and we've got enough delta V to then hop on over to be closer to the surface base. So, I wanted to showcase kind of the reflections of Minmus, but I thought all in good time, let us first of all go back to the SSTO and return back to Kerbin, because again we've got to showcase the volumetric clouds. They really are the star of the show when it comes to the whole deferred rendering, TOFX, and volumetric clouds trifecta. So we've switched back to the SSTO. We've created a maneuver that's going to get us back to Kerbin. We're just going to do a few aero brakes just to lower our apoapsis, and then we're going to do a deorbit burn to get us back to the Kerbal Space Center. Now there's no easy way of saying this, guys, but I have to make a very sincere apology for a very embarrassing blunder I made in last week's video, where I showcased the Promised Worlds mod. I was quite tired. I do say as much in the video as well. I was quite tired. I was really rushing to get it done. And I said something that was completely untrue and was a completely inexcusable error. It sounds like I'm about to say I made a really racist comment or something. It wasn't that. It was, I said in that video, I can't even remember the exact wording I said, but I said something along the lines of I said Alpha Centauri is our nearest galaxy to the Milky Way. And there's a lot to unpack there. So obviously, first of all, Alpha Centauri is not a galaxy. And it's not a star system either. It's three stars. It's 3 stars, right? So it's a cluster of star systems. So Proxima Centauri was what I meant to say in that sentence, and then I was then meant to say it's our closest star system to the Sol system. That's where Earth is, right? But I somehow, in the moment, I just started thinking about galaxies. I was like, oh, it's the closest galaxy to the Milky Way in my head. Galaxy meant solar system, and our solar system was the Milky Way. I don't quite know how I made that error. I just want to put it clear that I do know that that's not true. I just completely missed that when I was talking. Oh, by the way, the Kraken struck once again. So the SSTO exploded, so I reloaded a quick save. Yeah, I don't quite know what happened. It was very embarrassing. Most of the comments on that video are people mentioning that little verbal typo. So I must apologize for that. I'm aware that Andromeda is our closest galaxy to the Milky Way, which is a galaxy in which both Proxima Centauri and the Sol system are located. So I just wanted to clear the air. You know, that's a little retraction I want to make, and I wish I could just delete that video and then replace it with an identical one where that's edited out and no one will be any the wiser. That's a feature that some YouTubers have access to. So for example, Linus Tech Tips, when there was that whole drama around they sold some water, I can't remember, it was a couple of years ago, where they were in kind of hot water. They made a very tone-deaf apology video, and then later they edited that video on YouTube so that it was different, but all the metadata, like the comments and the views, they were all the same. And I know this is a feature that some YouTubers have. It's called inline replace, where basically you can take a video, swap it for another one, and all the metadata about it stays the same. I feel like enough years have passed, and it was probably very obvious from the start anyway, so I don't even know if I'm breaching any NDA. I never signed anything. But this is something that I have had access to in the past, when I had this big issue in 2019 where Sony and Werner Chappell basically copyright claimed my entire back catalogue because I had a music sample that I downloaded from the YouTube audio library, and and apparently it sampled a song that Sony owns, and so they copyright claimed all my videos, and that meant it was all revenue sharing. And the revenue split when you do revenue sharing is 20% to me, 80% to Sony. So yeah, it really screwed me over. So I was able to make new versions of those videos without the audio track, and then YouTube engineers did an inline replace. So that's what happened there. So that's how I know the feature is like real, it's not a conspiracy. And yep, that weird engine clipping once again struck its ugly head, and the craft sort of fell apart on landing. Now, I did do a couple of landing attempts to see if that was just a really bad landing attempt. Here's another one that I'm showcasing. I chose this attempt specifically because it's got those lovely puddles that the mod update shows. But once again, yeah, different engine. Well, actually, no, it's the same one, isn't it? The engine once again fell off, and it was the same kind of destruction. So I just said, you know what? We've landed. I haven't the time to refilm the entire mission, even though I probably should have, because again, we've got parachutes. But rather than, you know, refly the SSTO mission, I thought, let's just, you know, we don't want the video to be too long, right? Let's just do a lovely zoom out purely to showcase some of those clouds. Then we'll do a hard cut to the VAB, and we're going to do a speed build of a ship that I called Fixer. It basically just adds parachutes. That's it, actually. It adds parachutes. So mercifully, I added a docking port to the top of our Minmus lander. So that in theory, it could dock with the orbiting Minmus space station. But this means that I can add a little module to the top of it that has parachutes on it. And ironically, when building it, as you can see, I forgot to add parachutes to it. It was only when I launched, I was like, oh, I haven't added parachutes to it. So I was able to quickly revert to the VAB and add parachutes. That's why you will see me add parachutes at the very end of this build. Yeah, there we are. I'm adding the parachutes here. So that's it. And then it's going to kind of get to Minmus on a little lander. It's going to carry some cargo for the Kerbals. So when we go out and showcase all those cool surface reflections, the Kerbals can deploy some EVA experiments, set up some science things, have a fun old time. And there we are, launching with a storm behind us, or in front of us, yeah, as we lift off from the launch pad. Now, this is not going to be as drawn out as the SSTO mission. I'm going to speed the footage to be really fast, just so we can get to Minmus and do this thing that I really shouldn't have had to do. Is if I were a professional player of Kerbal Space Program, right, I would never have made this sort of mistake. Right, one would hope. So yeah, that's what we're doing here. So actually, let's speed the footage up to be really fast just to get through the rest of the ascent, because we've done the interesting bit, which is looking at those lovely volumetric clouds in that storm. Now let's yeah, now we've done our initial burn that's going to get us into space. Yes. So yeah, obviously Minmus has kind of been the star of this video, but I would like to do, I need to do Lathe. That is not even a question. I'm going to do Lathe showcase. I think BlackRock also mentioned Val. It looks very nice with deferred rendering, because Val is very, very similar to Minmus. It's got these big, reflective, flat planes. So, and I guess it's kind of a bit more interesting than Minmus, because it's got with the Parallax Continued mod, which is one of the other visual mods I'm running, and which is basically as essential as volumetric clouds if you want your KSP to look as good as possible. It adds some really cool like ice shards and formations to the surface of Val, so definitely need to do that. Check out the deferred rendering reflections. I just didn't have a surface space there. I kind of wanted to showcase a surface space or some other large structure to kind of really, I guess, show off the reflections. And I guess I could have just made a surface base and deployed it in this video, but thought it'd be kind of interesting to revisit my Minmus base, and also my Minmus base, for whatever reason, nobody watched that video. It got like no views. So for many of you, you are kind of seeing the Minmus base for the first time, potentially. So hey, it wasn't all in vain when I first built that surface base. But yeah, when I said we were going to get to Minmus nice and quickly, I wasn't lying. We're already doing our landing burn. Well, I guess this is kind of the deorbit burn at this point. As you can see, we haven't got that much delta V remaining, less than 300 meters per second. And I was blissfully unaware of this. I was like, I know for a fact we've got enough delta V to do a Minmus landing. And so I'm not even going to look at our fuel levels or delta V. I was just looking at the kind of where the surface base was and trying to point us so we'd be landing next to it, not knowing that I was burning through fuel with reckless abandon. And so we actually ran out of fuel before touching down, but luckily our descent speed was slow enough that we ended up not damaging the craft. But yeah, here, you know, I'm just boosting towards it. Oh, it's getting quite fine now, only 39 meters per second to go. And now only 14 meters per second to go. So, and I had no idea, and I was like just doing these little burns, adjusting our trajectory. And it was only then when I tried to throttle up again, wait for it, I'm throttling up again, nothing's happening. That's when I realized we ran out of fuel. But luckily, we had a fairly, strong landing gear for the size of this vehicle, that it was able to easily absorb the force of the impact. We came down at 16.5 meters per second, which is a pretty forgiving speed on Minmus. It's very low surface gravity. And there we are. We have touched down with our little Fixer craft. So now we're going to undock the parachute module and hover it over and land it on the vehicle. And so it will then have parachutes. Now, I was kind of worried this was going to be a really difficult process, but to be honest, guys, I absolutely nailed it. I got it first time. So just enjoy this. It's about time I did something that was somewhat showcased some skills somewhat. Not that this was a difficult task anyway, but after the errors I made saying that Alpha Centauri was the nearest galaxy to the Milky Way, and after I forgot to add parachutes to the re-entry module, I feel like I need some sort of redemption arc here, and this is going to be it. There we are, docked to the land. Look at those reflections. Did you see just then? We've got the lovely orange tank of that lander reflected lovely and beautifully on the surface of the windless flats. But what we're going to do now is we've got to get a Kerbal out on EVA, deploy those science modules, inspect the re-entry vehicle, make sure it's, works. And I thought for that, we'd go to live commentary and in real time. So I, as editing Matt, will bid thee adieu, and I'll hand you over to live commentary Matt for, what I just said, basically. Thank you, live Matt. Love that guy. Here we are at the Minmus surface base. If you want to watch the video in which I built this, I'll put a card on screen and a link in the description. But yeah, I've already done a whole internal tour, walking around with the modules. So let's go ahead and find a Kerbal to go on EVA. Oh, this guy looks like a good choice. Let's get Willwell Kerman on EVA. I'll quickly showcase inside of the base, actually, shall I? We got a little grow room just here. That's where I grow my strawberries and my potatoes. Yeah, that's the tour. And if you want to see more, then you can check out the video. But yeah, here we are on EVA. Let's turn our little headlamp on. And look at that. Lovely little reflection on the surface. I mean, goodness me. Filming that bit of the video at the beginning where I showed stock KSP with no visual mods. Haven't we come a long old way? So first things first, let us assess the escape pod rocket, whatever you want to call it. We do indeed have space for 6 Kerbals because we've got 3 here. And just jump. And then there's 3 more seats in there, basically. But let us not dwell on this because this is not the exciting part of the video, is it? We're going to go to the hatch. To the hatch. Where's the hatch? Oh, there it is. Is that it? Yep, go EVA. There we are. Great. So, let us go to the lander that ran out of fuel on descent and grab some little EVA stuff. And we can, go ahead and do all that, I guess. So, massively overshot this, as you can see. Let's go down. I'm going to try and grab onto one of these ladders. We are going to need to ditch our parachute for this, so that the Willwell Kerman can indeed carry the stuff. So, let's see. We want inventory and inventory. So we're going to swap out this for an EVA experiment. No, we don't want 4. We just want 1. Okay, hang on. How do I just take 1? Okay, let's take this. Oh, crumbs, guys. I've made a massive error again. Oh, no. Wait. Oh, goodness. This is really frustrating. What do I do? Okay, hang on. Let's just... Can I access that storage base from the surface? Oh, thank goodness I can. Okay. I was thinking, if we can't jet back up there, then that's going to be a disaster. There we go. And then, can I just put this somewhere? Okay, great. Phew! Wow, I was getting so scared. Okay, let us do some EVA science with this lovely visual mod there. Ready? Wow. What have we learned? Who knows? Let's see what we learned. Nothing. We learned nothing. We got 0 science from that, but it looked cool at least. So, let us start deploying the deployable science. So, can I then put these back and then... Right, and then that's fine. Yes, okay. I was just... are we in... yes, oh, good. So, we need an engineer Kerbal, ideally. So the solar panels we place generate as much power as possible. So here's our first experiment. It's the little mystery goo thing. It's so satisfying, the deployment of these things. These are part of the Breaking Ground DLC, by the way, these little deployable science things. But yeah, they just make the surface base a little bit more complete, don't they? Okay, next up, let's go and have a look at what we've got. I'm just going to turn my volume down a bit so it doesn't get picked up by the microphone. There we are. So, open our inventory again. Let's deploy this thing next, because this is one of the more satisfying ones to deploy. You ready? Where is it? There it is. Whoops. It's a little communications dish. We're ready? Ooh. There we are. What I might do actually is just time-lapse through this bit, because this is going to take a while. I'll go back to editing Matt for a bit. Thanks, live Matt. Well, as requested, we'll do this in time-lapse, and I will just talk for a bit. That being said, it being a time-lapse and the fact that not a lot is going to happen, I don't really have that much time to talk. In fact, I've already talked over half of the time that I have to talk over, right, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm just deploying stuff, and it's all fun. And now that's the end of the time-lapse bit, so back to live Matt. And then we just have the placement of the third and final solar panel. So here we go. Ooh, I love the little deployment animations. And yeah, they're cool because the solar panels will track the sun. There it is. And now we can just get our jetpack back on and our parachute for no real reason because we're on Minimus. And there we are. Let's just fly up. I'll just remove the little nav boards so we can better see what's on screen and the UI. But there's a lovely little overview of the things that we've done. It's kind of looking like a proper little base area now. We've got two little landers. We've got the main base itself, and obviously we've got all of our deployed field signs, and we've of course got our Lowne aerospace flag, and we also have this great banner on the screen. Again, incogni.com/MattLowne to get your discount. 60% off an annual plan, and honestly, I do genuinely use Incogni, and I think it's a really necessary service in this day and age, and that's genuine. And they've supported me for a number of years now, so I'm very grateful for their continued support. The other people that support me are, of course, my patrons and YouTube channel members. Their names are on the right-hand side of the screen right now. If your name is in lights there, then massive, massive thank you. And if you haven't checked it out already, you will have an ad-free access to this video, as well as access to the craft file. You will need to fix it though, so it has parachutes on the lander, because I forgot to update that. I've just now remembered. So make of that what you will. But yes, download BlackRack's mods